Today, this is my home, and you can do whatever you want." Tom, looking at me with a proud smile, opened his arms wide and happily explored the big room, almost like he was dancing. The house we're in is where my family lives. My dad was rich, and he really loved this home. This house is the result of his passion and is worth a huge $200 million. My dad built this house with a lot of love and left it to me before he recently passed away. Now my husband says this house, which I got from my dad, is also his. Do you think he can make my inherited home his own, even though I told him it's mine? He just smirks confidently. I'm not lying. I have proof if you need it. The proof my husband showed me has my name on it. I'm Emily, and I'm 38 years old. I work online at an internet bank. One reason I chose this job is because my parents taught me about money. My parents were experts in managing money, and I grew up in a rich family. They always stressed how important money is and how we should take care of it. These words, which my dad repeated so much, come back to me even now. Even though we had assets, my parents didn't just give me whatever I wanted. They made us live like a regular family. My allowance was less than my friends, and going to fancy restaurants was rare. I went to a local public school, not a fancy private one. People started to hear about my big house and our family's wealth, and my parents had lots of friends. "Emily, your house is huge, right? Are you rich? It must be nice to get anything you want, right? You have the latest games, don't you? Can we come over to play sometime?" The truth is, I didn't get everything I wanted, and I didn't even have expensive toys or the latest game console, but people believed these rumors. Honestly, I didn't like these rumors because I thought I was living a normal life like everyone else. "Emily, your family is rich, right? Can you lend me some money?" I accidentally broke Karen's game console, and I have to pay for it. "I don't have money right now." Now Catherine and I had just become classmates in the 5th grade. "Did you tell your parents?" "I can't. I'm afraid they'll be mad. That's why I'm asking you, Emily." I was worried that if I said no, it would be awkward in school the next day, but my parents didn't let me lend money. "I'm sorry, Catherine. I don't have money right now." When I said no, Catherine left with tears in her eyes. "You refused Catherine's request, didn't you? You're rich, so why don't you help your friend Catherine? She needs money now." I didn't understand why I was being dragged into this, even though I had nothing to do with it. But I kept saying I couldn't lend money because I didn't have any. For a while, Karen, who was listening, said, "I get it. Money is more important to you than your friend, Catherine. It's wrong to abandon a friend. You must have money being from a rich family. Why do you lie? You're just the worst." Leaving those words behind, she walked away. That day's events started malicious rumors about me. Karen and Catherine began spreading baseless lies to others, like I had taken money from them and didn't pay for the broken game console. The teachers quickly found out the truth and warned the 2 girls sternly, but that made things worse. Malicious rumors kept spreading throughout the school and eventually reached my parents. My father decided to visit the elementary school, and there was a meeting between parents to resolve the situation. After hearing their insincere apologies, I kept my distance from Karen and Catherine. They occasionally glanced and sneered at me, but didn't talk to me directly. At dinner that day, my father advised me with a reassuring smile, "Listen, Emily, say no firmly because lending money is forbidden by your parents. You don't have to say whether you have money or not. If the other person insists, just say you have to ask your parents, even though it's not allowed." I've had enough of troublesome money matters. I nodded deeply, keeping my father's words in my heart. After graduating from elementary school, I reduced the number of times I invited friends to my house and focused on building good relationships based on character. After graduating from university and starting to work, I paid careful attention to avoid money problems, putting my energy into my job and keeping my personal life private. When I was 28, I met Tom, who is now my husband, through a friend's introduction. Tom, 1 year younger than me at 27, had an honest and cheerful personality. I was drawn to his straightforward nature. After 2 years of dating, we got married with a lively wedding, and my parents were genuinely happy. About a month after the wedding, my father suggested inviting Tom to our house. Even though I trusted Tom, I was worried about his talkative nature potentially causing issues by sharing details about my family. After being married for a month, I decided to reveal everything about my family to Tom and invited him to my parents' house. When Tom arrived at my family's house, he was quite amazed and stood there, mouth agape, shocked by the encounter. After the meal and on the way home, Tom couldn't stop asking about my wealth and assets, continually bringing up the topic of money. I didn't know much about how much money we had at home, but I felt worried. A few months later, my mom called me and said, "Your dad is going to the hospital." I was surprised and didn't know what to say. She explained, "Your dad hasn't been feeling well lately, and he's going to the hospital for some tests. Did you notice he wasn't eating much when you were home?" Looking back, I remembered that my dad didn't eat much that day and looked thin. I felt really concerned about my dad on Saturday. I went to the hospital with my mom. My dad seemed happy, but he was a bit quiet. When I talked to him, he greeted me with a kind smile and said, "I'm sorry for making you worry. I guess I'm getting old." After a while, the doctor told us that my dad had cancer in his pancreas, and it was at a very advanced stage. The cancer had already spread to other parts of his body, making surgery difficult. I was shocked, and my mom cried. We wondered why this happened because my dad always took good care of his health. When we went back to the room, my dad spoke with determination. He said, "I'm sorry. I want both of you to be happy from now on." We couldn't stop crying after hearing his words. I decided to spend as much time with him as possible. But because of the cold, only family could visit, and my dad missed seeing his friends. He wished that more people would come to our home and create happy memories. My dad wanted me to keep cherishing our home even after he was gone. I wanted to make his wish come true, so I got the idea to renovate our house. Tom was worried about me because I spent a lot of time with my dad during my days off. In reality, there was an issue with our family home, and I didn't want to tell Tom about our inheritance. One day, Tom asked me about my dad's health. I told him it wasn't great, and it was tough for me alone. Tom offered to help, and his comforting words made me feel better. My days were busy with work and hospital visits, and I felt tired both mentally and physically. But then Tom said something that worried me. He wanted to know more about my dad's money and property. I didn't want to discuss this with him. He mentioned talking to someone who knew about legal matters and said it's important to talk about money early, just in case something happens to my mom too. Tom's interest in my dad's assets and his hints about my mom's passing made me upset, bringing back bad memories. My dad has a lawyer, a longtime friend, and I didn't think Tom needed to worry. But Tom insisted that we should be careful about money, which made me start to distance myself from him emotionally. A few months later, despite my dad's brave fight, he passed away. After discussions among our family members, I inherited a big house worth $4.5 million. But Tom became increasingly interested in the inheritance, even though I told him not to. He kept asking about the inheritance and the taxes related to it. One day, he said excitedly, "You inherited a big mansion, right? That's amazing. When are we moving?" I was surprised and asked, How do you know? Tom had heard the news somewhere, and I was caught off guard. I met Emily's cousin at the funeral, and we greeted each other the other day. I told her not to talk lightly about important things, but her careless words hurt me. She said, "You inherited the big house, so why don't you live there? It's a waste to keep it empty. Let's live there and be happy as a family." I didn't understand why the family decided not to live there without asking me or my husband, Tom. I explained to Tom many times that the inheritance was not community property, but he didn't get it. After that, Tom started to show hostility towards me. Even though he attended my father's funeral, he didn't help with any of the following tasks. The whole family had a lot of work to do, and I was also busy with inheritance procedures and memorial services. After a couple of months, when things started to calm down, Tom told me something important. He said he changed the ownership of my family home to his name, and he had the legal documents as proof. I was shocked and didn't understand why he did that. He said he was tired of being with me, and that I could live in the house as his housemate, but I wouldn't get much money. He threatened divorce if I refused. I got emotional and told him not to say such things out of the blue and change the ownership on his own. Tom said he asked a legal expert to change it for him. We decided to get a divorce, and I packed my things and left the house, thinking that Tom had changed because of the temptation of money. The next day, Tom called and demanded the keys to my parents' house, saying it's his house now. I told him it wasn't his house. It was a family home inherited from my father. I hung up, but then a loud alarm went off. Tom was trying to break into the house forcefully. He insisted it was his house, but I ignored him. Security guards arrived and took Tom away. I showed them the real ownership document and explained that the house was inherited from my father. Tom claimed to have changed the ownership, but I gave him a copy of the real registry document, which proved I was the rightful owner. Tom turned pale and speechless. I explained that even a real legal expert couldn't change ownership without the owner's consent. Tom had met a legal expert, Alex, who offered to help after learning about my father's wealth. Alex advised Tom on inheritance tax and estate distribution, which is why Tom trusted him. Tom paid Alex $330,000 to change the ownership. Tom made a sad face and tried not to cry as he spoke. Then he took out his smartphone and called Alex, but Alex didn't pick up, and it went to voicemail. Tom didn't give up and kept calling, even though it seemed useless. He got frustrated and called Alex a scammer, saying that he approached people for money and tricked them. Tom said some hurtful things and told me I was foolish for spending $30,000 on something meaningless. He thought I should have researched how to register an inheritance properly and understand the expenses. Then he kept calling Alex. Tom also tried to stop me when I was leaving, saying he wanted to start over and reconsider the divorce, but it was too late. And I asked the security guard to escort him out. A few months later, I held my father's first Memorial Day at our family temple. Tom, who had been struggling since our divorce, showed up looking exhausted. He had lost his job and faced financial and personal troubles. Tom had been deceived by people who took advantage of him, and he was all alone. He was visibly struggling, and his appearance didn't show respect for the occasion. Tom continued to apologize and cry, drawing attention from my relatives at the memorial service. I asked him to stop and let me go, but he persisted. The security guard had to remove him from the premises. I felt bad for causing a disturbance during my father's memorial service. I decided to move out of my parents' house to cut all ties with Tom. I had been planning to move, so I found a new place to live smoothly. Tom often visited my family home, but it had been transformed into a rental villa. The rental villa was doing well, and my mother and I were running it together. I also heard that Tom had changed and was working on his job hunting seriously. He got a new job and was trying to turn his life around. I turned my family home into a rental villa, just like my father's dream, and it was becoming a place filled with memories just as he wanted. After turning the family home into a rental villa, it started to thrive. Guests from various places came to stay, and we received heartwarming feedback about their wonderful experiences. The villa's beautiful location and spacious garden made it a popular choice for vacations and special events like weddings and family reunions. Operating the rental villa with my mother brought us closer together. We shared the responsibilities of managing the property, from welcoming guests to maintaining the gardens. It was a great bonding experience, and I felt like I was fulfilling my father's dream of turning our family home into a place where people could create cherished memories. As time passed, the villa's success allowed us to make some improvements and add more amenities for our guests. We added a swimming pool, a cozy outdoor seating area, and even a small playground for children. Our hard work and dedication paid off as the villa's reputation continued to grow, and it became a sought-after destination for travelers looking for a relaxing and memorable stay. One day, as I was taking care of some maintenance in the garden, I couldn't help but smile and feel a deep sense of contentment. I knew my father would be proud of what we had accomplished with his dream. Our family home had become a place where people could come together, celebrate special moments, and make lasting memories. The success of the rental villa also brought financial stability and a sense of independence. I had proven to myself that I could stand on my own, away from the shadows of the past. While I had learned some harsh lessons about trust and money, I had also discovered the importance of resilience and determination in shaping my own future. As for Tom, I heard through the grapevine that he had successfully turned his life around. He found a fulfilling job and had learned valuable lessons from his past mistakes. It was a relief to know that he was on a better path and that both of us had found our own separate journeys towards personal growth and happiness. In the end, my father's dream had not only provided a brighter future for me and my mother, but also created a place where countless others could find joy and create their own cherished memories. My father's legacy lived on through the rental villa, and it was a constant reminder of the importance of resilience, determination, and the power of realizing one's dreams.